Welcome to the Mentor Me Kelly Show. I'm your host, Kelly Charles-Collins. I'm also affectionately known as the Speaker Mogul. Now, on this show, you will get a behind-the-scenes look as I mentor and provide strategic guidance to women speakers, experts, and thought leaders to elevate their speaking business. I'll do this using our P6 framework: positioning, prospecting, pitching, pricing, packaging, and presentation skills. So listen in as they ask questions and I give answers. But don't just listen. Take notes, take action, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Let's get started. Hey everybody, it's Kelly Charles-Collins. Welcome to the Mentor Me Kelly Show. And today we have an awesome guest. Her name is Quinn Conyers. Some of you may have seen her out in these speaking streets as an MC, but she is also a dynamic keynote speaker. So as I've told y'all before, the Mentor Me Kelly Show is my way of giving back, of really helping to elevate the voices of women speakers, experts, coaches, consultants who want to leverage all of what's in their mind, the brilliance that's in their brains, to go out and make bank in this world. So that's whether it's on a conference stage, whether it's in corporate, or you want to use speaking to build your business in some other way. And so you're getting a behind the scenes of me answering questions, whatever questions they have. It's generally around what we call our P6 framework. So that is positioning, prospecting, pitching, pricing, packaging, and presentation skills. It's all about the business of speaking and the branding of speaking. So today, again, I'm excited because not only is she a dynamic speaker, she's also my friend. So I want to introduce you all to Miss Quinn Conyers. Quinn, welcome to the Mentor Me Kelly Show.
Well, listen, I'm super excited, and I love how you have uniquely leveraged this as a show in a way to kind of pour in and give back. So I'm excited to be here. And again, my name is Quinn Conyers.
So tell them a little bit about yourself. I gave them the highlight, but okay, listen, y'all, only this woman, knows how to use words the way she uses words. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Quinn Conyers, and I transform average events into epic experiences as a compelling keynote speaker and energetic MC. I have been doing this work for the last 19 years. I consider myself the person that can turn up the volume on the voices of women in business and women leaders. And I've been full-time speaking, serving, training, coaching, and MCing for the last 9 years. And I really am excited to be here because I feel like when you are growing and you want to, advance as an entrepreneur, but more importantly, as a woman speaker, that you do not have to do that alone. So there's people out there like Kelly who has a cheat code and who can be a couple of steps ahead of you in different areas that can give you insight and direction to kind of cut down that learning curve so you can be super successful in a speaking business.
Yeah. I think it's so important what you just said, Quinn, and I want to really echo it around the fact that you've been speaking for a while. I've been speaking for a while, but we all still have questions, right? And sometimes one of the reasons I did this show is because I know sometimes it's just that one thing. If somebody just drops that one nugget in your mind, it is a thing that will give you the momentum and the shift, right, to move. And then also when we're thinking about Black women speakers, and people get mad about when you focus, right? And I know that you have Black women speak, and people get upset when you focus, but it's focus, not exclusion. And in this space of speaking, in this industry of corporate training and all of it, they're always saying they can't find us. And so my mission is to ensure that I'm able to amplify, elevate, and affirm the voices, particularly of Black women speakers, experts, and thought leaders. And so if this helps, you and helps anyone else who looks like us and those who don't, right? Because the information is the information. It's not Black information, it's information. But if it helps to move somebody off of the fence and get them going and being able to leverage their voice to create impact, influence, and income, I'm all for it. So the floor is yours. You can ask me anything you'd like to ask, and I am here for you.
And I got my notes. Don't threaten me
Oh,
with a
good.
good time. I got a notebook. I got
And
a
I might take
pad.
notes too as you talk, so that if
Um,
I hear something, I might.
Yeah. So, in full transparency, I'm grateful. I think, I have sung your song and did your dance of praises when I had connected with you on Clubhouse.
Back in
And
the day.
it was just a bunch of us on there when the world was shut down. And I remember I was attracted to you because, I mean, literally, I'm drinking coffee right now, right? And I remember you talking about your speaker fee.
Mhm.
And it wasn't, the number was impressive, but the way you said it without flinching was just like, Harpo, who's this woman? Where has she been all my life? Connect me, because I'm a confident speaker, I'm a confident communicator, but in this space, you don't meet too many women who can command and demand such an equitable, deserving fee without like, well, I hope that's okay. So
Yeah.
that's what initially attracted me to you, because people approach me all the time and I don't let everybody pour into me, especially if you ain't got no fruit, if you ain't got no receipts, because everybody's always in my inbox telling me what I can, should, and would do, right? So I like to check that out. So I guess, one of my things is I have built this great MC brand, what I'm really excited about, and I'm shifting more into the keynote space. And, one of the things that I'm looking into is really kind of getting nitty gritty with the association market. One of the things running a speaking business, you want to look at where's the majority of your revenue coming from versus being all over the place. And I did notice that a lot of my revenue was coming from associations, conferences, and things like that. So I really want to drill down on that. So
Yeah.
the question is, how do you choose a vertical, right? Because I feel like there's several ones, but the association market, if you're not familiar, is huge. Like there's an association for
There's for everything,
like there's
girl. There's one for
association for
I think eyelashes and something else.
people who love orange sweatshirts. There's an
That's right.
association for that. So I've been playing around with different things. I've talked to a few people. They had mentioned like the direct sales association. They mentioned like franchise, and that still didn't feel quite right. So if someone were me looking
Mhm.
to go into an association that actually has budgets, right? Because every
Right.
association is not
Right.
created equal. What would you suggest an association that you feel like I could thrive in and also has my keynote fee of about ten to $15,000?
Okay.
And if you need me to explain a little bit about my keynote, I can. But that's kind of like where I'm at right now. Like I really want to dive in a little bit.
What is your message? Like what are you helping people to solve?
So, my message is for women leaders and for women in business. And I am showing them that if they want to be super successful in their career or business, they must become compelling communicators. They must become powerful presenters. But more importantly, your voice is your secret power to excelling and advancing in your career or your business. So, in the simplest form, it's almost like communications and like being a leader around that
Mhm.
area, but it's using your voice to advance. That's what I'm
Yeah.
looking at. So if you want to grow your business, I'm going to tell you to use your voice. If you want to excel, you are a mid-level manager, you want the C-suite, I'm going to tell you to use your voice. So for me, my message is make your voice visible in the workplace or make your voice visible in your business. And that is how you could become super successful and earn ridiculous revenue.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So the thing that I teach my clients is what I call horizontal and then vertical positioning, right? So that's your horizontal positioning. That is what you want to resolve in the world. That's the problem that you're solving. You see that there's women out here who either in the corporations or they're in business and they're not leveraging their voice to either, help them one way or the other, right? In either of those spaces. So that's like your horizontal positioning. That could be across any type of industry. Now, in terms of like vertical, so there's a horizontal positioning and then there's vertical positioning. So you can have that positioning. Now you have to think about, okay, where do I want to make the difference? So
Mhm.
for you, if you're thinking about, you would think about like, what are the industries that perhaps women aren't leveraging their voices as much, right? So maybe a male dominated industry. So if you think about like trucking and construction, technology, finance, right? What are those types of industries where there are women there, the legal field, right? There are women there, but they're not necessarily leveraging their voices to the fullest extent, or they don't know how to do that. Right. And so then I would say, look at those types of industries. So there's women in trucking, there's what is there's one women, there's an accounting one. There's women in accounting. That's not the exact name of it, but there's an association that for women that are in the accounting field. I spoke last year for the for women engineers. So there's women engineers. So I would look at those types of spaces where you have potential high earners, right? And see what associations they join. And then there's a book that you can purchase with every single association, all their contact information, every single thing. When I had it, this was a few years ago, it was like almost $1,000. So I don't know what it is now. But there's also ways that you can search online for the associations and see what their budgets are, right? So if you know that you want to command a fee of 10,000, 15,000, 25,000, and you're looking at an association and their revenue is like 100,000, that's not your people. The other thing to do is look at the associations. Once you figure out the verticals, then looking at, do they have conferences, and seeing like, where are their conferences? Where do they hold them, right? Are they holding them at, a Residence Inn, or are they holding them in Las Vegas somewhere, right? If it's in Vegas and one of the big, they got money, right? Whether or not they want to give it to you is a whole nother story, but they have money, right? So a lot of associations, though, do have budgets for speakers. It will range, and their ranges are sometimes less than some of the bigger conferences. But again, it depends on the association, the size of the association, right? Because it could be a major association. They may be paying people $25,000, $50,000. Right. So it just depends. So for you, the thing is to figure out, what is the vertical that you want to be in? You had mentioned that word in the beginning. What is the vertical? But thinking of who could best use what you're talking about. And are these the specific people that you want to talk to? Right. Because just because they may have that problem, like, are you really interested in talking to people in construction? Maybe not. All right. Are you interested in talking to people in trucking? Maybe not. So I think you have to think about what suits you and who are the people that you want to impact, and then choose that, and then just do some research on the different associations. And a lot of it you can just Google.
No, that is interesting, because even right now, and I think that what I have, looked into, because I'm going at this from two different angles, is because I'm an MC, I have done a lot of work with what I call introverted industries,
Mm.
right? So I call them introverted industries because they are hiring me, to be honest with you, not for my subject matter expertise. Half of this stuff, I have no idea what they're talking about. Like, I
Yeah.
know a little bit of everything, right? There's been, like one of my clients who I'm grateful for, the American Association of Endocrinologists, had no idea what an endocrinologist was, but they needed someone to come in with the energy, right? So again, do I want to go down this endocrinology rabbit hole, right? I don't know, right? It's not necessarily my thing. So I think I like what you're saying, as far as it could be an industry that could definitely use my voice elevation tools for the women who are part of it. But I also know that part of you getting or commanding or demanding that 10, 15, $20,000 fee is they want to know, do you have experience within the industry as well?
Not
No?
necessarily. Not
Okay.
necessarily, right? There's lots of people who are out here speaking, getting all these kinds of fees, talking to all these different companies, and they don't have not 1 ounce of nothing. Because if that were the case, then you would be limited to that vertical, right? So that would be like me not being able to speak to medical doctors. It'll be like me not being able to speak to accountants or speak to, anybody, because I'm a lawyer. So that's the experience that I have as a lawyer. It's not that. So what we have to look at is, what are the skill sets that you have? Right.
Mm.
So as a lawyer, so even like with working with my clients inside of Thought Leader Circle and as part of Speaker Moguls, and I wrote a post about this. I don't coach people. I don't teach people how to speak. My clients are brilliant. They already know how to speak. They already know what they need to do. What I do is teach people how to think, right? Think strategically and intentionally, and understand what it is that they know at such a very deep and cellular level, right? And how can they transform people from that place? So it doesn't matter that I don't know, like when I was practicing law, I didn't know that all the industries, right, that I represented companies, small businesses to global multi-billion dollar companies. I didn't know their industries. I knew the law. So I knew the substance, right? And then I can take what I know and take the skills that I have to help transform them. So in these businesses, like getting a $25,000, $50,000 fee doesn't mean that you have anything to do with the industry. Look at celebrity speakers. They don't. They don't know nothing about nothing. And they're on these stages, right? They're on these big stages. So it's the ability, really, when I talk to people, it's like really the ability to create intrigue, transform audiences, and shift their perspectives. If you can do those things and you can communicate to the person who's paying you, what we call your paying audience, how you can transform your consuming audience, understanding both the consuming audience's problems, the paying audience's problems, and each of their desires, and showing that you are the solution, no matter which one you're talking to, consuming or paying, because they're interrelated, right? So it's not about having the skill, it's not about having the substantive knowledge of the industry. It's about having the skill set to then be able to align with whatever is going on in that industry and being able to understand, right? So being a lawyer taught me how to think. It taught me how to analyze. It taught me how to synthesize. So it doesn't matter what industry, the problems are the problems, right? It's whether or not I want to help you solve them. And I can go in and say, oh, I get that. Here's what you need to do. Now, I may need to learn a little bit more so that I can use their language, right? And
Okay.
understand some of that. But you don't have to have that. Nobody would ever get paid if that were the case.
Yeah, no, that's good insight. Thank you for that clarification. And let me ask you this, like,
Mhm.
I wonder if am I like being safe or am I like avoiding the obvious, right? Because when it comes to associations, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business owner. So my initial thought was, why don't I go after women in business associations? Like that just makes perfectly good sense to me, right? Especially because I do believe that a lot of times when it comes to business, right? There's two folds that I'm looking at this. When it comes to business, a lot of women do not know how to be the spokesperson for their business, their company, or their corporation, right? So if they are trying to attract customers or clients, they don't know how to do that. If they are either entering a business pitch competition or maybe they're going to a bank for a loan or line of credit, you still got to explain to that relationship manager what your business is and who you are. A lot of these entrepreneurs are getting opportunities to speak, whether it be on a panel, whether it be a keynote, whether do a workshop, and they don't know how to leverage speaking as a strategy for business growth, right? So my initial thought was I should go after women in business associations because that is who I am.
Mhm.
And that's what I've been doing. And it was like so obvious. And I was like, is that it? And then the second side of that is, let me just pause right there. Like,
Mhm.
that's an industry within itself. There's so many initiatives around it. My only, I think, hesitation is when I did do some work, it was like they didn't have any money. It was like we got
I was just gonna tell you that they don't
oh,
pay.
there you go. And maybe that's why I was like, because I have done some stuff and it was like, we got $1,500. I'm like, that's sneaker money. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? So
It's one of the it is for me, it is one of the I always say it's fascinating, but it's one of the things I'm like, if you have a women's organization and it's about women's empowerment, and the woman that you would like to be on the stage to empower the people in the room, you have disempowered by not paying her, but everybody else in the room gets paid. So it's a really, is being paid in some way. So I think it's a really interesting thing. So here's the thing to your question though. You don't have to choose. It can be and. So you can have separate verticals, right? So you can have an association. I'm going after associations vertical. And you can have, okay, I'm going to go after women businesses, right? Women in business vertical. What you have to then think about is, okay, is this one over here, women in business, is this more of a doing good, right? And is this over here, right, doing well? So I do well so I can do good. Doing well is finding the spaces where they'll pay you, right? They're going to pay you for your expertise. There's not the friction around them paying you. And then over here, the doing good. Now, in the doing good piece, when you have these organizations where they're not paying you to be on stage, and you talk about this all the time, like I do, is okay, but are there women in that room that I have maybe a coaching program, a mentoring program, or I do pitch training that I can then make the money right in that space. But if I can't make the money in that space to live the way that I need to live to be able to support my life and my lifestyle and your kids and all the things that they need to do, then that is not the primary vertical. So if you're going to have multiple verticals, it's looking at which is the primary vertical that I can know that, okay, I'm going to go make my money. And then if I get an offer to go on a stage to do this, I know that I'm not relying on just this, right? So you can have separate ones. The thing that happens with that is that obviously the messaging is different. And so you have to get really, really good at being able to message to those people and not get people confused as to what you're doing, but it just comes in clear messaging.
Yeah. Yeah, so and that's what I felt, and that's why I didn't go in. And I was like, the obvious is there's so many women in business organizations. The challenge is, yeah, but they don't have any money, or a lot of them don't have an equitable fee, is what I'll say. They have love offerings,
Yeah,
right? That's what I call them. That's a love
right. I know. I
offering,
love that you say that. I
versus
call
not.
it a bag of chips.
You
You
call it a
call it
bag of
love.
chips. Well, sometimes I call it sneaker money because I have
Yeah.
an obsession, but I'm
Yes,
like,
I
it's
know.
sneaker money, but so yeah, I think that's where I have to kind of play around with, because to be honest with you, a, a lot of the industries are very much male dominated. I talk to a lot of women and they are maybe they're only millennial, maybe they're only person of color, maybe they're only person who is Latina or black or over the age of 65. Like
Yeah.
I find that, but I'm like, but I also want to be in an industry that also fuels me a little bit, right? Because again, as an MC, I have been in so many different spaces where it's different things, and I'm just like, what? Like, I'm just not interested, right?
Yeah.
Like, nothing that's wrong with what they're talking about. It's just not my jam.
Yeah.
But if you put me in a room and they're talking about entrepreneurs, they're talking about business, you know what I mean? That is like, that lights my fire. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure out, what that could be, from a keynote
There are
standpoint.
stages though that will pay for that, right? So there are stages that will pay you to speak to entrepreneurs. You just got to go find those stages.
Got it.
Now there's stages that you may have to pay to be on those stages, or those stages are really free stages. And I think the thing about when you think about entrepreneurs and the conferences that we see, and obviously there's conferences every single day, so this is just a generality. When you think about the conferences with entrepreneurs, you have to decide though, inside of that, are these the entrepreneurs, right? Who I need to speak to. So for example, Small Business Expo, love it. It was great. I went to it because I wanted to see if that was a space, because they call me all the time about, doing a table and exhibiting and whatever. And I went and I realized that that space is not for me, right? Based on what I do and what I do in terms of working with women and helping them, right, to leverage their voice and stuff, that's not a space for me. So though it is entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs are part of my ecosystem in terms of potential clients, that's not it, right?
Mhm.
And so there's a lot of entrepreneurial conferences that are happening right now, right? But a lot of them are around marketing and funnel building and, sales and whatever. Are those people who are in that space looking for what you want to do? So even though you go and speak about this, is that what they're there for? Are they really going to be, are you really going to be able to make the money coming out of there, right? And so I think you have to look at, where are people who are like maybe people who are authors, or people who are in transition, women who are in transition trying to figure out, what they want to do. It's a delicate dance in terms of the entrepreneurship market. Particularly, it's interesting though, because those of us who are, like for me, growing up in entrepreneurship in this age of online, we often forget that there's a whole world of entrepreneurs who don't know what the hell we talking about. They don't know nothing about all this social media. They don't know anything about that. So for you, maybe just expanding. I mean, you're in Baltimore, right?
Mhm.
And maybe just expanding and seeing what else is out there in terms of entrepreneurship and what types of events and stuff are happening. I don't know if politics is something that you're interested in, but you are in the hub of women, and maybe working with them to get their messages together, get them to be able to speak in sound bites and be powerful. You're, around DC and Maryland and everywhere, and seeing who's there to make that one of your verticals, right? They got money,
I like that. Oh, you
right?
just said you got me sitting up. That's how I know I'm in. I'm like, woo,
Because I think that
so
would be a great space for you.
yeah, and so two things came to mind as you were speaking. The first thing that came to mind, which makes a total bunch of sense, is I just got certified. I haven't even announced it yet with WeBank, so
Yeah, I
I'm
have
an
mine. Yeah,
official women business
businesses.
enterprise,
Yeah,
and that
yeah,
gives me just leverage to work with companies. And do some type of what I want to do is corporate communications training. So I was thinking about that, as well, and how I'm going to leverage that. I'm just working on my capability statement and a few other
yeah.
things that I can go out. But the wording, and I love words, and I realize that too. All entrepreneurs are not created equal. And it's funny because I was telling my director of operations, like when we got the information, the paperwork in, and it had my company name and not my name, right?
Mhm.
So for a while I built a personal brand around my business, and I felt like I went from an entrepreneur to a business owner. Now instead of like my name is Quinn and this is what I do, versus my name is Quinn Conyers, I'm the founder and CEO
CEO
of.
of,
So
yes.
when it comes to entrepreneurs, they're not all created equal. And I realize people who call themselves founders, or people who call themselves business owners, it's a higher, I would say not even higher, a more seasoned business owner. Whereas
A different thought
entrepreneurs,
process, really, right?
correct, they're running a business. Like they
Yeah,
understand. A lot of entrepreneurs are still solopreneurs, right? When I talk about, a brand manager and whatever, most people are like, you have a what? I'm doing everything. Whereas business owners operate a little bit differently.
yeah.
So that is actually a really good distinction of, are you going to entrepreneurial events or are you going to business owner events, because that is a little bit of a difference. Let's play with these verticals though, right?
Yeah.
Because you got my head spinning as far as, I guess, the association or the vertical of, let me get your wording right, let me make sure, let you know I've been taking notes. When we go horizontal about
Yeah,
making leveraging, women's voices or even people's voices, right?
yeah.
The vertical is, where do I want to make a difference, right? Where does it really matter? So for me, I would love to work with either individuals
Hmm.
or people who, in order to be successful in their career or in their position, that they have to speak, whether
Yeah.
it's internally, whether it's externally, but 30 to 40% of their success, 30-40% of their, you know, how they're going to be, did you do well? Their paycheck is going to depend on their voice. So I
Yes.
thought about sales, right? Because you have to
Yeah.
do in sales. I've thought about, people again in the financial industry, but I like the idea of women in politics. And I would love to kind of go a little bit deeper. What other
Okay.
organizations that women might be the only, women might be in a male dominated, industry, but if they're quiet, they're not going to be successful. So it's not like I'm not going after women in computer programming, right?
Right.
They can talk and email, but for the most
Right.
part, I want to work with people who have to make public presentations. Like it's part of their job. And I would love to get your insight on this as well, because I was going back and forth to say, is this part of the brand women focused or is it just individuals? Because
Yeah.
as an entrepreneur, as an MC, when I'm emceeing these major corporation events, I'm behind the scenes with the CEO. He's
Right.
nervous. He's pacing back and forth.
Yep.
I have done plenty of things that were supposed to be a keynote with the CFO of the company, the founder of the company. He's like, I can't do it. I can't do it. So that keynote would turn into a fireside chat, and that wasn't on the script.
Yeah.
So I also want to be open that, like, public speaking is still the number one fear.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And regardless, if I've seen men and I've seen women, my heart goes out to women even more because I'm a
Right.
woman, but I've seen grown men like pacing, sweating. Quinn, I can't do. We're holding hands. I'm praying. You know what I mean? Like, you got this. I'm doing all types of motivational speeches. And this man is running a multi-billion-dollar
Yeah.
company, but he's afraid to go out on that stage in front of 3,000 people at their national event.
Yeah.
So those are two questions. Number one, what other verticals could I potentially tap into, like the women in politics, where speaking, especially publicly, and I'm gonna be clear, I'm not going after you have to communicate. Communicate can be very interpersonal communication.
Right.
I'm talking about it's you and a crowd. Like you have to do public
Yeah.
speaking because that's my gifting. And then number two, can this side of my business as I'm elevating, does it have to be women? Can it be people? Because people, no matter if you're blue, pink, with, tan polka dots,
Yeah.
it's still a fear, and it's still people causes people anxiety. Okay, I'm quiet. So you got me fired
Yeah.
up, Kelly. You got me
No, I
fired up
love
over
it.
here.
I love it. I love it. Well, definitely politics, right? And yes, it doesn't have to be. You get to choose, right? Do you want to work with men? Do you want to work with women? Do you want to work with everybody? Like, however people identify, who do you want to work with? Because again, it's what is the mission, right? So, what is the mission? So that's why when I work with my clients, the first thing that we do in creating their talks is understanding what is their true why. Because we have giftings and we have expertise in certain areas. It's not necessarily the thing that drives us. Sometimes I have to ask them like what pisses them off to get them there, but it's a thing that every day you would wake up every morning and do regardless, right? These are the type
Mm,
of people that you want to hang out with regardless. Like I love working with speakers, but I don't want to work with new speakers. Why? Because I like being with women who are like me, who already have a deep level of expertise, and I'm not teaching them necessarily the basics. I am just amplifying who they are, right? So you have to think about that in terms of when you start thinking about the verticals, right? So do you want it could just be, regardless of the industry, it could be that a vertical is CEOs or C-suite executive women. It could be women who want to be on boards, right? People are looking for board seats. So you have to just think about, because for me, like, so I'm working with women who have this deep level of expertise that we're using that to tailor their message, and then they can go out and do whatever they want to do. I don't know that you're necessarily helping them tailor their message as much as it is helping them to really understand how to use their voice. It may be a part and parcel, right? That you're doing both. But if you think about the people who have to really use their voice, you're talking about politicians, you're talking about people in the law, you're talking about people in real estate, you're talking about, think about who are customer facing. You talked about sales, right? Yes, sales, but they generally, I mean, I guess they do need public speaking too. Yeah. So so anything that's like direct customer facing. But I really think that politicians could use you. I really think when you think about that, they really need to be charismatic. They really need to know how to communicate messages in sound bites. They need to be able to pull people into their messaging, and they have to do that with different types of people, right? Because they have so many different people in their constituencies. So the ability to be able to move people at different ages and stages is really important. And so understanding how to use wording, how to use the cadence of their voice, how to use timing, when to be serious, when to have more levity. I think those are really things that are important. But again, it just comes back to you. And though you can help all of these types of people, who do you really want to help? Like for me, I can work with men, and I have and I will, right? But inside of Thought Leader Circle, it's women. Right. Men can't come into Thought Leader Circle. You want to do a VIP day with me, or a VIP day week, a VIP weekend, and we work through your stuff as somebody who's not a woman? Great. I'll do that all day long. But in terms of the community, and where I spend my time in terms of that, those are the people. right? So that's the vertical that I've chosen. And that in that vertical is women attorneys. I was an attorney, right? They are me. Those are the women that I want to go grab, right? And help. Women who are professional services, doctors, accountants, right? Women like you who are speakers and understand that there is a value in your voice and that your voice can change the world, right? And that you really want to do something with that. It's not a hobby. And so I think that's the other thing that you need to look at. Like, are these people really serious about what it is they want to do? And do you want to just be in a space where, yeah, like it's, speaking is a part of my job. I don't really want to do it, but I'll do it. Or do you want to be in a space where people are like, no, I know I need this. So let's go. Right. And again, it just comes, you mentioned before about your business model. Yes, like so important as a business. And I think this is where a lot of us, especially as Black women, we fall down in that we think of ourselves as Quinn Conyers, the speaker, as opposed to Quinn Conyers, the CEO of whoever, that's the business person. The talent inside of that business is Quinn Conyers. So I talk about CEO versus talent. I'm the CEO of HR Legally Speaking. When I'm in negotiations around my speaking, HR Legally Speaking, the business is in the negotiations. It's not Kelly the speaker. Kelly the speaker will show up and deliver what we agree to.
Mm-hmm. You got me thinking. No, I love this and what you're talking about. I had wrote down like the C-suite or even senior level executives or senior
Yep.
level, because maybe they're ultimate, because I feel
Because
like
they have to go up, right? So
they
in
have
order
to
to,
go up. So
that's
I
right.
would even say maybe even mid-level managers or
Yes.
senior level is what
Yep.
I feel good. But
Yep.
again, they understand it. But the politicians, that feels good too. So I'm just thinking out
Yeah.
loud.
I think that you're in a good space for that. And they are, they've been on for years now about really elevating women in politics. And part of it is, I think part of just in any industry, part of what holds us back is our inability to communicate and communicate powerfully. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a difference between being strong and being powerful. So I never say I'm strong, I'm powerful. Powerful people influence people, right? Power influences. And so one of the things that we have to learn to do when we speak is to speak from a place of power, of internal knowing and internal power, and not being able to just be, like knocked down. We'll get shaken a little bit, but to understand that our true strength, right, our core, like at our core, we're powerful as women. And so, being on like TV, so for media, prepping people for media, that's another thing. Like, having them understand how, when the news reporter gets in your face, all of a sudden you just came out of wherever and they're like in your face, how to breathe and take in what they're saying and understanding what are your talking points, and be whatever, no matter, that's the talking point, right? And being really able to understand those things. You may also be good in a space of like teaching people how to operate in terms of like crisis management and what they say and not say, and how they like, okay, you have the microphones in your face and you don't want to not say anything. Well, what do you say? Like, how do you communicate? I don't know if that's in your wheelhouse, but
No,
I
I've
think
thought about
that
it's
might be
not, but
something.
I think if I would like, I could do that, but I know
Mhm.
exactly what you mean by that. No, so and I think part of me having I'm an out loud processor thinker,
Mhm.
and especially being on social media, I think that where I almost got down a rabbit hole, and I'm glad that I came back up, because sometimes people want from you what is your zone of excellence. And what I want to give at this next level is my zone of genius. So you probably know this because we've had conversations before, is a lot of people reach out to me like they reach out to you. They see us on stages. Oh my gosh, I want to get paid to speak. I want to get paid to speak. And I think that what's frustrating about that is it's like there's a lot of gimmicky
Yeah.
people out there. I'm going to teach you how to make six figures in 60 days and you're going to get paid. I'm like, you do know it took me 19 years to figure this out, right? There's a process. Like you said, you have all
Right.
your P's, positioning, pitching, all of that.
Yeah.
And I just feel like when I have these conversations, I'm like, you're not even prepared. Let's talk about the first P. You're not even
Right.
prepared.
Right.
So even if I said, okay, great, what's your fee? You say 5,000. You know what? I got a client who just reached out to me. I'm not available. Can you send me over your headshot? It's like, huh? So it's like, you
Yeah.
want to
They
get
don't
paid
even
for this,
have
and you're not
it.
prepared.
The company asks for your W-9 and you're like, what's that?
Yes, exactly. And I'm getting W-9
Like, what
requests
is
all the
that?
time right
Yeah.
now because it's they got to have it. But yes, again, W-9, like basic information that it's like if you want to run a business. But I think what I have learned, and this is why I think this is making so much sense to me, is Kelly, I am good at that. Like I can teach somebody how, to make money speaking because I've done it. Blood, sweat, tears, scuffed up elbows, things like that. But what I really enjoy
Mhm.
is teaching you how to become a powerful presenter.
That's right.
And I remember a good friend of mine, Tiffany Bethea, I just hosted her event, and she was like, every fear is rooted in a lie. And I
Mhm.
remember, I mean, I've been doing this for a minute. I did a workshop called How to Become a Powerful Presenter in 2012, right? I've done plenty of workshops. Bunch of people came out. It was amazing. And people were like, what do you have next? What's after this? And internally, I thought that meant that what I just did wasn't good
Good
enough.
enough.
I didn't understand. It's like, no, this was actually great. I didn't have a sale I didn't know any better. I didn't know the business side of speaking. So my thing is like, you do an event like that, that's low ticketed, then you offer them something bigger. But in my mind, like people don't really want to know how to become better speakers. What they really want to know is how to make money. And I found myself going down that rabbit hole. And yes, I can, but I have seen it because I used to do this program called Power at the Podium.
Mhm.
And I would teach business leaders. I mean, it's so interesting. I'm looking back on it now. They would come in and we would spend 2 days together. We would go through everything. You would see the before and after. They were crying because they were like almost, I didn't know what to say. I'm teaching them how to organize their presentation. I was teaching them how to structure it, certain words to choose, no discount dialect, no weak
Right.
words, replace that with wealthy words. I would teach them how to engage the audience, how to use their hands, how to use their everything. And the self-confidence shift, I'm like, that's what I want to do. But I was trying to figure out, was there a market that just valued the art of being a compelling communicator? And I think I convinced myself that there was not. I
Mhm.
convinced myself that the market just wants to learn how to get paid. So that's
It
why.
is a huge part of the market, and the reason, and I'm so glad that you said that. And it's actually quite frustrating, and it's why I do what I do, because you see it every day now, like on Instagram, everywhere. Everybody's teaching speaking, and everybody's like, "Oh, you can make 10,000, you could make 20,000." Meanwhile, those people are not making that amount to speak. First thing. And then second, they're like, oh, and you'll get on this many stages and you do whatever. I saw a message yesterday, and this woman was talking about the fact that she spoke 175 times last year. Who the hell wants to do that? And she's like, I can teach you how to get. No, you teaching them how to like just, this is crazy, right? And yes, a lot of people just want to know how to get paid to speak. What they don't realize is in order to get paid to speak, there's so many things that you have to do, right? You have to position yourself to be able to get paid to speak, talking about getting paid well and getting paid well consistently, right? Anybody can get $200, $300, whatever. This is why, like in my program, I'm like, you have to at least want to make $7,500 to speak or to have your program be at least $7,500, because getting paid to speak could be anything, right? And I don't want to deal with you. I want to deal with people who understand that your brilliance is worth money, and there's ways to leverage it. You could do all kinds of things with it. It doesn't just mean being on a conference stage. It doesn't just mean being a keynote speaker. It doesn't just mean getting corporate contracts. There's all kinds of ways to use what's in your brain, right? So as I talk about it being an expertise-based business, there's so many ways that you can leverage your expertise to make money. And so, yes, you have to figure out, like, for you, what that is. And I know one of the things that you had said to me before was that you want to be out there speaking and you don't have the time necessarily. You haven't built in the time inside of your business to be coaching and mentoring. So you got to figure that out too, because then the verticals that you choose have to be able to be people or organizations that can pay you enough to support your lifestyle, so that you don't have to then be like, oh shoot, I need to come over here and figure out how to supplement it with this coaching, which I don't really have time to do, or I'm going to have to make time and it's not really what I want to do. I really want to be out on stages, or I want to be working one-on-one with people who are brilliant and this is what they want to do. And in that respect, some of that is going to be coaching, right? It might be executive coaching, but that's a different level of coaching than thinking about, okay, I got to come over here and find like all 10 people to come into this group level of coaching, right? And so you can have both, but I know from when I was talking to you earlier, you were telling me that this is like you really want to be out on these stages. And that's the other thing too, like to really think about, Quinn, if that's really what you want to do. Like what is it about like being able to like, oh, I'm a keynote speaker? Because I think I had this conversation with you. I was saying that oftentimes people say I want to be a keynote because they believe that there is a status and a level of fee that goes with keynote that you can't get any other way. And I can tell you that as an executive coach, right, you can make as much money as doing a keynote, right? You're not on nobody's stage. So I think you have to figure out what that is for you. Like, what is the driving force? Is it being on stage, like the love of being on stage and being known as a keynote speaker and, getting the energy of the room? Or is it, I don't care where I do it. I don't care if it's right for me. I don't care if I'm sitting right here in my house doing I don't have to be on the stage. I could do it right here. As long as I'm creating the impact that I want to create, I could be sitting in the Starbucks. I don't care. So yes, it's great to be on stage. And I love when I'm on stage. It is not the driving force for me though. And so I think you have to figure that out. What is the driving force? And then what is the best delivery method? Because keynotes are just a delivery method.
Yeah, and we talked about this and you were spot on. And like I said, when I did my power at the podium, I used to do those like once a quarter, right before the pandemic hit. And to be honest with you, what I really love is transformation. So one of the things that I loved about the Power at the Podium program that I did is, they would come in, not as confident speakers. They were getting speaking requests. They wanted to polish their skills. And part of it was so we did a lot of coaching and training day one. They would get up, they would practice. I'm talking about they were having complete meltdowns. The next day, they were like different people. Right. So for me, you're exactly right. It doesn't have to be a keynote stage. I'm more concerned with the transformation. I'm more concerned about what I call seeing you transform from a public speaker to a power presenter. That is what like gets my gears going. So one of the things that you mentioned that I will be doing is, yes, I can get on, I can keynote, you can hire me to potentially do some executive public speaking coaching, but to also feed me, because it might not always be, I have to work this vertical. I have to build the relationship. You know what I mean? That's one thing too, is like, you can have all the credentials. There's still a cycle when I got people like, I just submitted some information. They have a net 90, right? Which means they might not pay me until 90 days after I deliver the service. So what I'm going to get back to, which I started that I begin to do, was have my own workshops and seminars. So for example, I'm doing this on a stage, but Quinn has to get her fulfillment fix, right? So twice a year, I'm actually going to be creating, so this is y'all hearing this brand new, right? I'm going to be creating a public workshop called, Captivate. And this is where entrepreneurs and leaders can come. It's going to be the premier 2-day public speaking training experience to teach you how to become powerful presenters and compelling communicators. So it's exactly what I'll be doing on the corporate level. It's just me gathering my own resources. So I'm actually letting go of the whole notion of teaching you how to become a paid speaker. I tapped into it. It was never really my thing. If anything,
it brings
I
in
share
a
my
different
story.
breed of people, honey.
Yeah, it was never really my thing. People would ask me about it, but what I really love to do is I love to see a woman, especially who have been muted, who's been muzzled, or
Yeah.
they want to open their mouth and feel like she's being taken seriously, you know what I mean? And walking it that way. And of course, I talk about written communication, nonverbal communication, all of what I studied, all of what I taught, but doing that like public speaking for professionals type thing.
Yeah.
So you're going to see more of that from me. So not that I had a lot of content around that. I just know what people come to me for because they see me on stage, right?
Yeah.
I'm very much, and I shared this with you, some people, they're not actively in the speaking business. Like they were, they were really, really ramped up maybe a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Whereas my reality is not only am I teaching this, I am very much still on stages,
Yeah,
right?
me too.
So I want to make sure that how can I serve you one on many? I can't
Mm.
have 25 coaching clients one on one. But what I can do is twice a year put a bunch of people in a room and teach you how to be a powerful presenter that way. And it still is in alignment with what I'm doing on a corporate level. Because if you are doing this, there should be a business to business model and there should be a business to consumer model. My consumers want to know how to get paid to speak, but I'm going to give my consumers people who just want to be powerful presenters.
But they're
That's the
actually
direction
not
I'm going on.
consumers. They're
Okay.
not. The people that you're speaking to are business owners. They just
Okay.
have to happen to be, they may be solopreneurs, but if you hired me, or right, or if you came into my thought leader circle program, this is a business to business transaction. You're a business owner. I'm dealing with a business owner. I'm just dealing with the talent inside. I'm developing the talent inside of a business. But it's not like I'm not going after a consumer who is and like, so most of my clients, right, they're either full-time entrepreneurs or they're in corporate and they have a business, or they're transitioning out right into entrepreneurship. And I think this is something that we have to really start thinking about, is because also it will help you with talking to them, because as a consumer, right, we're watching like, oh, as a consumer, oh, I'm not going to pay for this, I'm going to pay for that. As a business, I think about it as an investment. This is an expense of my business that at some point I can write off. I'm not giving y'all tax advice, right? And so there's a different level of thinking. This is why I say I don't teach people how to speak, and I teach you how to think, and I teach you how to be intentional and strategic. Because if I'm thinking about, I just want to be on the stage and be a keynote speaker, or I'm thinking about these types of things, I'm not thinking about the transformation. If I'm thinking about the transformation that I create in the world, then what I do is think about, okay, this is the transformation that I want to create. This is why we start with the message. No message, no money, right? So we start with the messaging. And then it's like, okay, well, then how do I want to deliver that? How do I want to deliver the transformation? It could be done in a keynote. It could be
Mm-hmm.
done in a workshop. It could be done in consulting. It could be done just one-on-one. It can be done at a retreat. It can be done at whatever. That's a delivery method, right? Those are delivery methods. The thing that is being sold is not the keynote, it's not the workshop, it's the transformation. So you got to know that piece first, right? And so that's why we do our signature talk black print and help people to develop talks. And we help people develop talks like not one single soul on this earth is doing, right? It's at a whole different level than anybody does. And so that's the important piece to understand. And that when you are, because you said, I want to talk to these women business owners. Yes, they're a person that you're speaking to, but you have to help shift them too, to understand that I'm speaking to you as a business owner. I'm not speaking to you as Kelly. I'm speaking to you as Kelly who owns this business. What does your business need? I'm going to teach you skills that are going to help your business, right? And so now I think about the money coming out of my business as opposed to the money coming out of my family.
Ooh. Sorry. I'm excited. No, that makes sense. So it's not business to consumer. So what do you call that? Business to business. So because my
It's
brain is
just business
B2B.
to business. It's still
It,
business to business.
so business to business. So then what would
Yeah.
be
It's
business
human to
to
human and business to business.
so what would be the company's corporations? What is
So
that then?
like that's business to business. So like, if you think about business to consumer, Walmart, you go to Walmart, that's business to consumer. You go to Publix, business to consumer. You go to Louis Vuitton, business to consumer, right? Sometimes it's business to business, depending on how what you're buying the items for. But generally, if I go in the mall, right, to purchase something, I'm going in there as a purely as a consumer most times, right? Unless I'm buying something that I'm going to go for my speaking business. But I'm generally going there as I'm just consuming the product, right?
Mm,
If however, like if I'm hiring a coach or any of those things, I'm thinking about it as related to my business. This is how it's going to make my business better. Yes, it will make me better as a person, but here's why, before we wrap up, here's why that's so important too. Because if I go into this conversation as consumer. So I'm having a conversation. Somebody wants to be in thought leader circle, and they're thinking of themselves as purely a consumer, right? In terms of having the conversation, there's an imbalance. There's already an imbalance because they think, okay, this is a business, right? So this is what happens with corporate and around speaking. So I'll use corporate as speaking. So we want to speak for a corporation. Well, because we go in there as, Kelly or Quinn, the speaker, and I'm dealing with Coca-Cola or, Best Buy or whoever, business, right? We see them as a business, as an entity. We don't see ourselves as a business or entity. There's already a complete imbalance. You cannot negotiate from a place of imbalance, right? So unless you think, no, that's a business and I'm a business, I'm just a small business. There may be a big business, but I'm a business. So business people have, now I'm on the level. We're peers as opposed to I'm like here at, I'm so grateful to be here. No, I'm your peer. We're having a conversation as businesses, right? The businesses are negotiating. And I think that's where we fall sometimes, because it's like, then we think, oh, well, okay, they said they can't afford it or they whatever. So now we have to take it. No, if you were a business talking to another business or something, you would think, no, you have yours. Just like you said, they said it's net 90. So they're not going to, no, that's not how your business runs. So if that's not how your business runs, you can negotiate that that's not how your business runs. No, if you want to do business with me, this is how I do business. You might be able to, operate on net 90, but my business doesn't operate on net 90. My business operates on you gonna pay me right now or net 30 or whatever it is. And then you have to decide whether you want to go with what they say or whatever. They get to decide what they want to do. But if you are negotiating from a space of this is a business to business, this is how my business runs. I don't have cash flow to be able to front you. I'm not a bank. I can't front you and loan you this money, right? While you figure it out. And what do I do for 90 days? What does my business do for 90 days? But if you're thinking on the level of it being a business, now you're on par with them as opposed to being, less than them. So the imbalance goes away. It's all thinking, shifting, thinking.
Listen, you made me drop my pen. Where's the offering plate? Yes. I love that shift. I love that shift. Yeah, I can go on and on and on, but I'm going to honor your time. I know we're a little bit past
That's
that, but
okay. It was
thank
a great
you.
conversation. Yeah, great questions.
Yeah, thank you for that. But you just gave me what I call a mental makeover, right? Because I did see it as business to consumer, but no, when you start talking business to business, it's also less personal. You know what I mean? There's a language around, for your business, not just you. This is what you're doing this is a professional development within your business. Because a lot of times the talent are so connected to it versus having business to conversation. So you just gave me some really good language that my whole business model is business to business. It's business to business in regards to companies and corporations that can hire me, but I also want to work with business owners and the talent of, to say, this is how being a better communicator, this is how being a better public speaker is going to be advantageous to you and your business, not just to you. And I think that I have been personalizing it versus looking at it from you and your business. That's just different language.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it'll serve you well. And if people get that, it'll serve them well too. And it'll serve the people who are coming in and saying they can't afford, right? And some of them just can't. And some of them, you don't want them to be able to afford it anyway.
Right.
Like, oh, I'm so glad you said that. But it helps to shift because they'll think about how can I go get something for my business, right? How do I make it work for my business? And if you think about it as a business expense, like, oh, I did have this business line of credit over here or whatever. Oh, I could use that, right? So now it's attached to the business as opposed to I got to go over here and get my personal credit card or go in my family's bank account or whatever to get whatever money or to do whatever. So it just helps with expanding the thinking. And then, like you said, it does remove the personal aspect of it. And that's why people say it's business. It's just business. It's not personal. It's just business.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, listen, I don't want to love you and leave you. We can stay here forever, but I'm just trying to. Like, how often can I book these sessions? You might see another form come
You're
through. Like
done.
Quinn, didn't I just do Quinn?
You can come hang
X
out
her
with me for a
application.
year in Thought Leaders Circle. I'll be happy to do it with you.
I know, right? I no, I appreciate that. Yeah, and
You're
send that
welcome.
information over. Like I'm always looking to learn and grow and do some things like that. But I do like the way that you think. I like your perspective on
Oh,
certain things, which is I think is very telling. I feel like it's just like I said, the current state of everything, and we see it because we're in the world. It just feels very gimmicky. I was telling a friend, like it feels like not even a microwave society anymore of how you can do this quickly. It's a vending machine. Like people don't even want to make 2 minutes.
right. They
They
just
just
want to
want it.
know
And
how
I'm
they can
like,
get on stage.
it doesn't work that way. Like it
Like
really
there's
is a process.
work. Like
Yes.
most of what I do every day is behind the scenes, like putting things together, like calling people and emailing people and creating content and whatever. Like it's the work, like, it's the work. Odell talks about, he doesn't as much anymore, but he would talk about like the marketing, right? You have to market. Most of our job is marketing and sales.
Yeah.
This much of it is speaking.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But this has been awesome, Quinn. I am so glad that you took the time to spend this time with me and ask such great questions. I think it'll be really, really helpful for so many people. So, for anybody who thinks that they want to be on the Mentor Me Kelly show and you have some great questions, but you have to be somebody like we were talking about, that this is really what, as a business that you really want to do this. I'm not here to just help you in your hobby. Or if you just, as Quinn was just talking about, and this is how it started for me, like around messaging to, do you want to get paid to speak? And what I realized was like, ooh, that's the wrong message. It was pulling in the wrong people, like so pulling in the wrong people. Um, yeah. So if that's you, drop a comment, let me know. And if you want to hear more about the way I think and learn more about the Thought Leader Circle, February 12th through 16th, I'll be hosting my Speaker Pathways to Profit workshop. It's 5 days of free training, 1 hour a day, 7 p.m. Eastern. All you have to do is register at positionpitchprofit.com. Just go to positionpitchprofit.com and I will be there giving you all the gems. So we'll be talking about mindset on your money. We'll be talking about powerful positioning, purposeful prospecting, the 3 C's to closing contracts, and all about monetizing your expertise. So check out the other episodes of Mentor Me Kelly. I answer all kinds of stuff. I actually love doing this. And I love when people have really, really great questions that go to really the heart of what the business is about, as opposed to the surface. Well, how do I get on the stage? You can get on stage any day. That's easy. You can get on any type of stage. Just do you want to get on the right stages, right? And do the thing that you are called to do every day, right? To create the impact that you really want to create. So until next time, y'all, go check out the other episodes. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel at the Kelly Charles Collins, and make sure that you show up for the Speaker Pathways to Profit workshop at positionpitchprofit.com. And until next time, take care.